something,
And
but
some
I
of them
mean,
are
the
full
people that have been, you know.
Somebody's, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just, Karen and
Well,
will be in Boston.
good basic people through the
I
years.
just down to the river
So,
where.
and not that many watch it or see it ever, but.
Remember.
Okay, we're gonna start. So, sit comfortably, and you know, I'm gonna start in a chair just because I want to today, but if you wanna be on the floor, get comfortable, so that if you need blankets, remember, anything you use here at the studio, just leave it when you leave. If you don't wanna wipe off the blocks, I'll do it. If you wanna get a wipe and wipe blocks and put them back, or your chairs, you can. But if you don't want to, you're welcome just to leave them, and I'll take care of it, and then just take home what's yours, right? So, sit comfortably, whether you have your feet hips distance apart and parallel if you're sitting in your chair, or maybe you want to cross your legs if you're on the floor, or even stretch your legs out, right? But just be mindful. Close your eyes for a second. Let yourself just really enjoy feeling the top of your head reaching up towards the ceiling. And then be aware of your sitting bones. You can kind of rock a little bit so you can feel those two sitting bones underneath you. Reaching down then equally into whatever surface you're sitting on. And then just allow your breath to come in and go out through your nose. Imagining that you're breathing equally in and out through both sides of your nose. And if you're comfortable, to inhale into your belly. Feel the breath coming into the belly. Feeling your belly expand a little bit as you inhale. And if you're comfortable to come towards those three-part breaths, you can inhale into your belly, into your ribs, then up into your chest a little bit. And when you exhale, you can imagine the breath coming out of your chest first, and then your ribs, and then your belly. Letting your arms come on out beside you here now. So if you're on the floor, just can lightly touch the floor with your fingertips there. It's like there's a breath of air underneath your arms here. And we'll inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come right down to be in front of our chest. And then we'll reverse and inhale our hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, open the arms on back out and down. And let's inhale the arms straight out from our shoulders, flex your hands, and then bring your hands in closer towards your shoulders. And then as you exhale, press out into your hands, the heels of your hands. Also press into your feet a little bit. So when you inhale, the hands come in. And when you exhale, you press into your hands and maybe into whatever part of your feet are touching the floor. And then one more time, inhaling, bringing the hands in. And as you exhale, pressing out here, and then let your arms come on down. Take a nice inhale, and as we exhale, we're going to twist to your left. Bring your right hand around towards your left knee. You may not go all the way to the knee, but you might. Lengthen up through the crown of your head. Let yourself feel your sitting bones still reaching down. Inhale, and on the exhale, come on back around through center. We're going to go all the way into the other direction. So waking up the spine here now. And enjoy finding that sense of the twist coming right there in the middle of your back. And one more inhale. And on the exhale, come on back around into center. And bring your arms just slightly up in front of you and make an X with your arms here. Let yourself just enjoy coming into opening up through the shoulders a little bit. And then undo that X, and then bring your other arm on top so that you come into feeling your shoulders, feel there between the shoulder blades on your back. And then open the arms back out and bring the arms out more beside you again and turn your palms up. And then bend your elbows and let your fingertips come to just touch the tops of your shoulders. And as you exhale, bring your elbows forward. It doesn't matter how far. And when you inhale, open them back out. See if you can reach them a little behind here. And then when you exhale again, bring your elbows forward again. You can touch them together if you want. And then when you inhale, bring them out beside you. And totally optional whether you let them go back a little bit. One more time. Exhaling, drawing the elbows forward. And then as you inhale, bringing them back. And again, if you want to go a little behind yourself, do. And then we'll release the arms on down. Shake out your hands a little bit. If you're cross-legged on the floor, you might want to stretch your legs out. You're going to switch the cross of your legs and bring your other leg in front when you come back to being cross-legged. Again, if your legs are long or you had your feet on the floor, that's fine. And let's come forward and back a little bit with our breath. So as you exhale, let yourself move a little bit forward with a nice long back. And when you inhale, come back up to the top. So exhaling your way forward and inhaling your way back with your own breath, right? The tempo of your own breath. So if your breaths are fairly long and you feel like it takes more time to come forward and back, take that time. Don't push it. Be really mindful as you come forward and back with your breath so that you feel that still you're having that length of your spine. And now the next time you come forward, see if you can stay. Now, how far you come in a forward bend? If you're on the floor, you might want to put your hands down. In my chair, I like to widen my feet out. Maybe bring my elbows above my knees. Keeping your back long. Now, if you're okay to reach down and get your ankles or put your hands on the floor if you're in a chair, go right for it, that's fine. And same thing if you're sitting on the floor. You can walk further out if you feel okay to let yourself release. By all means do. Take your time and just breathe. Let your neck release. If it feels okay to let your head hang, do. If that's too much for your back, think about your head being in line with your spine. One more breath here. And we are going to slowly come all the way on back up to sitting. And from here, if you're in your chair and you need to bring your feet back together, do. Let's release our arms again out beside us. And inhale the arms up into a wide V. So turn your palms to face each other. And then see if you can just scoop your little fingers in closer together so you have lots of space between your ears and your shoulders. Good. So instead of the shoulders feeling like they want to lift up, they really want to drop down. Good. One more breath. And then let your arms lower on back down beside you. Shake out a little bit through your hands. Stretch your legs out for a second and kind of wiggle everything. Move your feet around, your hands around. If you want to do little wiper blades with your feet, you can. We are going to come around towards our hands and our knees. And if you do not want to be on your knees, don't be, right? Use a blanket under your knees if you want. Put a chair underneath your hands so you're up on your feet instead of down on your knees. And if your wrists bother you, try fists with your hands because that takes the wrist crease out of your hands. Or hold the edge of the seat of your chair. Or, of course, you can even be on your forearms, like you can be on your forearms on your blocks or the floor of the chair. Another one you can do is if you're standing up, you can put your hands above your knees on your thighs. And you can actually move through your cat-cow like that to where, you don't have pressure into your hands. You're focusing on your spine. So you got to find what works for you and let yourself then start to move through your spine, your cat-cows. So traditionally, we exhale when we draw the tailbone up under us and round up into our back into cat pose. And inhale when we send the tailbone back and up and move back through into cow. But if that doesn't feel so good for you, you can do the total opposite breath, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you can also move from neutral spine into either your cow or your cat, not being really drastic about it. So if you have any kind of pain or discomfort, adjust however you need to accordingly. But just enjoy as much as you can that sense of the spine feeling really flexible, like it feels very easy to kind of flow through your back. And finish off the one that you're on or that you're moving into. And then come on back to more neutral spine. And we're going to step our left foot forward and our right foot back to come into a lunge. Now, if you're using your blocks, you've got 3 heights. You can be up on the highest height of the blocks. You can be down to the middle height or the lowest height. And of course, you can also use your chair underneath your hands. Just be mindful, getting that front knee no farther forward than your ankle when you're bent there in your left knee. And let yourself reach back into that long back leg back there. Engage your belly a little bit. So imagine you're zipping up from your pubic bone to your belly button really. And we are going to switch legs. So to come to the other side, how you switch is totally up to you. You know, and the length of your stance is up to you too. You might have, especially at the beginning, you might have your feet a little closer together. Just take your time, let yourself start to warm up into the legs and the hips. Feel again that little engagement of your belly. And make sure that front knee is not bending out beyond the toes, right? We're going to switch legs again. So remember, you do want your feet a little bit apart, like you're on really narrow railroad tracks, so that makes it easier on your hips, also on your balance. If you decide you want to lift up a hand, right? You can, your left foot forward there, you bring your left hand up or your forearm up to your thigh if you want a little bit more. And we are going to switch and again, come to the other side. So the same hand or arm as the front foot there, so that if you feel like you want to lift up, and I know some of you like to lift both hands up, if you do, go right for it. Or keep both hands grounded and let yourself still keep focusing on those legs and hips. Good, we're going to step forward and come into standing forward bent. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. Backs are really different for each of us, so you've got to be really careful. If you need a long back, take your time. Elbows can rest above your knees to give you a nice length through the low back there. Or you're more than welcome to use your chair or put blocks under your hands. If you can, let your head hang due. Of course, if it bothers you, don't do it. Let your head stay more in line with your spine. Remember, knees can be a little bent. Just make sure you're not locking your knees for sure. You don't want to jam back into locked knees. Feel your sitting bones over your heels. Let your breath now come in easily, fully and deeply. Feeling the ribs expand as you breathe in. Letting your face relax and the jaw go. If you feel tension in your jaw, you can always kind of move your mouth around a little bit. Sometimes I like to yawn. Kind of releases the jaw a bit. One more breath. And then we'll bring our hands to our hips, bend our knees, and rise on up to standing. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Coming into mountain pose. So take your time, get your feet. Remember, you want your feet about centering your feet with your hip pointer bones, right? So sometimes a little bit wider or a little less wide feels good. So you want to feel really pretty good up into your hips here. Feel your feet right underneath you. Let your hands then gently come to meet in front of your chest. Bringing your gaze on forward and out. And whether your eyes are opened or closed, just imagine you're looking straight out at the horizon so that it feels like your head is in a place where there's not tension in your neck. It's more like your head is floating up there on top of your spine. And then just enjoy feeling once the pelvis is aligned, your tailbone is reaching down towards between your heels. Your hips naturally want to come over your ankles and your shoulders over your hips. Just enjoy feeling the air around you. Imagine the space around you is supporting you really. And then we'll unfold unfold our arms on down beside us. And let's inhale the arms straight out from our shoulders here. And then turn your palms up and keep the arms floating up higher. Now you can go into a wide V, or you can go with your arms all the way up over your shoulders. And then as you exhale, bend your knees and come forward into that standing forward bend again. Hands can be wherever you want. And let your next inhale help you find a nice flat back, like you're a tabletop back. Reach back through your tailbone, out through the top of your head. And we're going to step our right foot back and come into lunge here. So let the shoulders come down away from your ears and just a little bit. Feel like you're making your mat longer with your feet. You're pressing your feet away from each other, gently. And we're going to make our way into a downward facing dog pose from here. Whether your hands are up on a chair or down onto blocks or the floor, think about elongating your spine. Bend the knees if you need to. Reach back through your sitting bones and through your tailbone. And see if you can let your elbows just softly hug inward a little bit so you feel really comfortable in your shoulders. And on the next inhale, we're going to come out towards a plank. Now, you don't have to do a full push-up pose. You can if you want. You can let yourself come out into that full plank, or you can go to your forearms to get out of your wrists, or you can put your knees down and do a half plank. But think about reaching your sitting bones down towards your heels. Nice. We're going to come on back into down dog. So if you need to adjust your feet when you come from plank to dog, by all means do. And then we will bring our right foot forward to find lunge. Now, if you need to either come up and then back to the lunge or put your knees down to get that right foot forward, do. Again, find your lunge by gently pressing your feet away from each other. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. And then we'll step back into our standing forward bend with our feet hips distance apart and parallel. Again, use support. You know, if you need to be up higher, you can stack blocks up into the seat of your chair and you still have that long back. Maybe you can let your head hang though, so you're releasing through your neck. And just be mindful so that you don't put pressure that's uncomfortable into your back. Feel the breath expanding the ribs in all directions as you inhale. And then we'll bring our hands to our hips and bend our knees and rise on up to standing. And we're going to inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come on down together in front of our hearts. We're going to release our arms down beside us. Let's inhale our right arm all the way out and up overhead. And bend your elbow. Let your hand come down for a second. Now, some of you might want to bring your left arm up and over the top and hold your elbow. Don't do it if it bothers your shoulder, right? And try not to do this. Instead of rounding in the upper back, it's more like your chest comes forward, right? And you can let yourself feel what your pelvis is doing. Feel your tailbone reaching down towards between your heels. And then we're going to release and let both arms unfold back on down. And we'll inhale the left arm all the way out and up overhead. And then again, as you bend the elbow, you have to adjust, right? If your elbow needs to come out or forward, totally optional to bring that right arm over the top. But again, you want to stay looking forward. So even if your elbow's out here, see if you can still keep your gaze forward. And feel that openness there through the shoulders. One more breath here. And then we'll release and unfold both arms on down. And we're going to inhale both arms all the way back out and up overhead. And on the exhale, bend our knees and come on forward into that standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find that flat back again. Again, reach back through your tailbone, forward and out through the top of your head. And this time the left foot steps back. Nice, and come into lunge. So draw your shoulders down now. Focus on reaching into that inner left heel back there and zipping up your belly at the same time. It's like you're elongating the whole inside of your back leg. And we're going to come on into a downward facing dog pose again from here. Your down dog is totally up to you. Down dogs can be done with hands up higher. Like if you're in your kitchen, you can put your hands on your counter and walk back. That's a down dog. 90-degree angle with your hands up higher. Or you can have your hands to the floor and be more like an upside down V with your heels hovering off the mat. Whatever dog you're doing, let yourself hug your elbows towards each other. Good. And on your next inhale, we're going to come on out again towards that plank. So again, you can have your hands up high or down low, and you don't have to do a full plank. You can go to forearm plank to get out of your hands. You can put your knees down. If you like push-ups, man, go for it. You can bend your elbows. Let yourself feel your elbows staying in towards your ribs if you can. Yoga-style push-ups. And we're going to come on back into down dog from there. Walk a little bit in your dog if you can. Bend one knee at a time and let yourself feel real easy in your neck by turning your head a little bit too from side to side. Good, and then we'll come on back to dog. We're going to bring our left foot forward to find our lunge, and however you need to get there. Once you get into the lunge again, see if you can focus a little bit on reaching into that inner right heel back there, elongating the inside of that right leg. Zip up your belly. Good. We're going to step forward and come on into standing forward bend again. And be mindful. Some of you I know are just fine to let yourself bring your hands to your elbows, and it feels really good because it's if your back feels good with that, it almost feels like you're tractioning yourself. But if you don't feel good like that, don't do it. Use support. Let yourself breathe fully and deeply into your ribs. So feel the ribs expanding, not just front to back, but also side to side, right? And then from here, we'll bring our hands back up to our hips and bend our knees and rise on up. We'll inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Let's unfold our arms. Bring your hands behind you and interlace your fingers so that your hands are clasped, but you're not pushing your palms together, right? It's just your fingers are interlaced. And then when you inhale, let the hands just come maybe an inch or two away from you. And then when you exhale, let them come back down. So if that doesn't feel good, don't do it. But if you can inhale your hands a little away and exhale, let them come back down, do. And then one more time. Let yourself inhale the hands a little bit away, even if you just think about it. And then exhale, let them come back down. We're going to bend our knees, take a nice inhale. And as we exhale, come forward, but stay with your back like parallel to the floor. So that your hands are still behind you, knees are bent, and you're just lengthened out here. Let it feel really good. And now release your hands and bring your hands right above your knees, onto your thighs above your knees. So you're supporting that length of your own spine there. And now we're going to bring our hands down to walk into a downward facing dog pose. So you decide, do you want to use the blocks? Do you want to use your chair? Or do you want to put your hands on the floor? Walk your way into your downward facing dog pose. And we're going to come on out towards a plank here again. Now it is optional to do a back bend. You don't have to. If you're on the floor, you can come down to your belly and then come onto your forearms. You can come into a little cobra or an up dog if you'd like to do a back bend. It is so not necessary. And then we'll come on back into downward facing dog pose again. So walk a little bit again. Let yourself release or bend both your knees. If it feels really good to bend both your knees in dog, do. And on your next inhale, we'll come on back out towards that plank. And again, it is totally optional to do any kind of back bend here. You can let yourself come through for an up dog or let yourself stay in plank, move down to the floor and do a sphinx if you want. And then we'll come on back again into downward facing dog. And from here, we will bring our right foot forward to come into lunge. However you need to get it there. And then we'll make our way back into our standing forward bend, feet hips distance apart and parallel. And just go to your breath. Watch those breaths easily in and out. And then bend your knees a little more deeply. Bring your hands onto your hips. We're going to come on up to standing and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhales, let our hands come right down to be in front of our chest, in front of our hearts. If you need to adjust a little bit into your mountain pose, do. But just be mindful. Accept the breaths easily in and out. Good. And then we'll release our arms on down beside us and move around a little bit. Shake out if you need to. And we're going to come into some warriors. If you're using your chair, you might want to turn it around so the back of it faces you. And if you don't have a chair, make sure you have your blocks handy there. And we're going to step our right foot back. We're coming into warrior 2. So we're letting that right foot step back. You know, it might be 2 feet between your feet. It might be 3. It might be 4. It's not important how far apart your feet are. But as you bend that left knee, what is important is to line it up with the center of the foot. Make sure you're not rolling into the knee coming inside, right, or outside the foot. So you're kind of feeling very centered on that foot. And then that back foot is comfortable, about parallel to the back edge of your mat. And let's rise our hands up just a little bit and let our hands circle. So let your hands circle one way and then reverse, go the other. Good, and then let the hands come out from your shoulders so you can look right out over the top of that left hand. Dropping the shoulders down, feeling, reaching equally out through both hands. But imagine that your arms are being held up from underneath. So it's like muscles that come around under your arms, holding your arms up, not the tops of your shoulders. And let's put our right hand on our right hip here and straighten our left knee out. And we're going to bring our left hand down for a triangle. You may want to use the chair. You may want to just extend your torso out. Let your hand come to the chair. You might want to bend your elbow and kind of go a little farther or not. And some of you will want to bring your hand down lower. You can come to your leg. You can come as far as you want into triangle. And if it feels good to lift your right arm straight up from your shoulder, go for it. If that doesn't feel good to you, don't do it. Keep your hand down on your hip. Thighs engaging up towards the hips. Feel that great sense of strength in your legs all the way up into your hips. It's like you're creating space in your knees. We're going to bend the left knee. We're going to come on back into warrior 2. Let the feet press gently away from each other. And now let your hands come down and clasp your hands behind you like we did just before, but now just let them rest. So they're resting there wherever they come to. Keep your gaze turning over your left shoulder for a second. Good. And then we're going to find lunge. So you might want to bring your hands to the chair back to get your lunge established there with the right heel reaching back. You might want to go lower. That depends on you. We are going to add a twist. So once you're into that lunge, let your left hand come to your left hip and come on into a twist here. Hand can stay right there on your back. You can stretch your arm up from your shoulder if you want to, facing the palm outward away from you, or just keep your hand down. And one more breath. And then let your hand come on back down. We're going to step forward and get our feet under us, so you adjust however you need to get your feet underneath you. And then we'll bend our knees, press into our feet. We're going to rise up and inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, come on into our mountain pose. Bend your knees just a little. Sit into a little chair, not a low chair. You're just barely shifting your hips back and bringing your torso a little forward. So you feel your thighs a little bit, but it actually kind of releases your hips. And then come on back up into your mountain pose. Grow back into mountain. And then we'll unfold our arms on down beside us. And we're going to do the other side. So this time we will step the left foot back to come into warrior 2. So again, as you step that left foot back, take your time, let yourself line up your heels, and be really mindful when you bend that knee. Just really, it's very easy for that knee to come inward or outward, right? So you want to think of it lining up with the center of your foot. Let your heels get really aligned there. And float your arms up low, and again, start to circle your hands around a little bit. This time, let's make fists, loose fists. So you're circling one way and then the other. And then start to reach through the fingertips as the hands come out from the shoulders. So looking out over the top of your right hand, feel the feet in the floor here. The right knee is bent, but remember you don't want it to go out beyond your toes. Good. And then we'll bring our left hand to our left hip. We're going to straighten our right knee out and bring our right hand down for triangle. So again, you can stay up high in triangle because you don't want to curve into your back here, right? You want to keep your back long. So you can extend out, you can bend your elbow if you want to go lower, you can put your hand to the seat of your chair if that feels good. Thighs engage up, and then if that left arm wants to come up, you can bring the left arm straight up from your shoulder. And if your shoulder says no, put the hand back down, right? So just be mindful, feel the thighs lifting up so you're engaging your legs. Good, one more breath. And then bend your right knee. Come on back up into your warrior two. Let yourself reach out through the fingertips again. Remember, you can always put your hand on your chair if you lose your balance. We're going to put our hands behind us again. Interlace your fingers and just open up through the chest here. So you're kind of aware of what your tailbone's doing when your hands are right back there, right? So make sure you're not tucking your tailbone up under you. Feel the tailbone reaching down. Good. And then let your hands come down. We're going to find lunge. So turning that left heel now directly behind your foot. You can stay up on the back of your chair. You can go down lower if you choose to, whatever height you want to use. And then we'll bring our right hand to our right hip. We're going to twist here. If you can put your palm right there on your low back, that can tell you whether you're dropping into that left side. You want to stay fairly level in your hips here. And if you feel like rising the arm up, go right for it. If your shoulder tells you it feels better to keep your hand down, keep your hand down. One more breath. And then go ahead and bring your hand on back down. We're going to step forward and get our feet right underneath us. And then we're going to bend our knees and rise on up. And we'll inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale again, come into that little chair. So you lean a little forward and you bend your knees a little bit and your hips go back. So, you know, your pelvis is now changing. It's reaching, sit bones are reaching back on that diagonal line. And then we're going to rise on back up to mountain. Let yourself come on into your mountain pose. Shift a little bit forward to the balls of the feet and then back to your heels. Not so much feel like you're going to fall over, but just a little bit. And then come back to center and see if you can go right to left a little bit. And now, this is the fun part. See if you can make circles, right? So you go the same direction in these circles, just letting the body make these circular motions. And then try to reverse. You stop and try to let the circles go the other way. And then just imagine the circle is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, like, you know, really it is like you were going down the drain, right? You get right there in the middle. So easy to find that balance now. And then we'll go ahead and unfold our arms on down beside us. And move around if you need to, shake anything out. And we're going to come into a warrior one this time. So you can have your chair this way, or if you want to turn the seat around to face you, if you're steady in your warrior one, you can. We're going to step our right foot back. And warrior one is a front-facing warrior. So if your chair is there, it keeps you honest to have your fingertips on the chair. You can always even put your foot under the chair seat a little more so you can have your hands there if you need them. And then let's let our arms come on down beside us. If you need to hold the chair, do. And we can inhale the arms all the way out and up into that wide V. So remember that one we found earlier. Pinkies turn towards each other, shoulders down away from the ears. If you want to look up a little bit, you can, but you don't need to. But don't just drop your head back. If you're lifting, imagine the sternum is coming forward, kind of on a diagonal line. Open up through the chest. Imagine your arms are growing out of your back. One more breath. And then lower your arms on down beside you. And we're going to turn sideways on our mat. Widen your feet at least as wide as your shoulders. Feet are pretty parallel. And we're going to come forward. You can grab blocks if you need them as you come on forward, or let yourself grab the chair and put it in front of you if you want to be even higher. And then take your time. If bending a knee at a time feels okay for you, you can let one knee bend and then the other. Obviously, if your knees bother you doing this, do not do it. Just let yourself find what you can there in your inner thighs. And then come on back into center. And now let your hands be out in front of you, either on blocks or the chair or the floor, so you have a nice long back. And we're going to bring our right hand to our right hip here and roll that right shoulder up to try to put our palm right down onto our low back. So your back is lengthened. If you can, imagine you're trying to lengthen your mat with your feet. You're pressing your feet away from each other, and your inner thighs are melting their way behind you. And then we'll put our right hand on back down, and we're going to go to the other side. Left hand is going to go up. Press the feet away from each other like you're trying to make your mat longer as you lengthen, and that twist is right in the middle of your back. You're trying to be level there. Good. And then we'll come on back, hands down, and take your time. If you feel better to put your elbows above your knees to support a long back, do that. If you feel better to let yourself release your hands down, let your head hang, you're okay to feel that in your back. You're more than welcome to let yourself come to where it feels comfortable for you, of course. And come to your breaths. Watch your breaths now, fully and deeply, all the way in and all the way out. And let yourself release through your face. Let your jaw go. And we're going to let ourselves walk our hands back out. Bring your hands to above your knees on your thighs. If you need to press into them to help yourself rise up, do. And then we bring our feet on together. And you can walk around a little bit if you need to, right? So take your time, move around. We're going to do the other side. This time it'll be the left foot that steps back. So coming into that warrior one. And again, if you have a chair and you put your hands on the chair, you put your foot under the chair and bend your front knee there, then when you rise up, that really gets you aligned. Your shoulders are over your hips and you're square with your shoulders towards the front edge of your mat. And then from there, release your arms again down. If you can rise both arms up too. If you're unsteady, you can keep a hand on the chair. You can do one arm at a time, right? So if you feel unsteady, use the support that you have there. Bring your gaze on forward, and if you feel like you want to let the sternum come a little forward on that diagonal line, you might want to look up a little. Good. One more breath. And then we'll release to bring our arms on down. And again, we're going to turn so we're sideways on our mat and widen our feet out and make our way forward. So if you need the chair there to be in front of you, move it on around there. And if you need your blocks, let your hands come on down to the blocks. And then see if you can walk a little over to the right, and you can, if you're on your blocks, you can let your blocks just walk and be kind of extensions of your arms, right? Or you can walk your hands towards your foot. And then we'll come on back through center, and we're going to go the other side. So again, you know, it might be just a little shift of the blocks. You might want to walk quite a ways. Totally up to you. And then we'll come on back into center again. And now bend both your knees and let yourself just enjoy feeling like you're reaching your inner thighs back behind you, right? And I mean, sometimes it feels good to lift your heels up a little bit and put them back down. Don't do that if it bothers you. And then when you're ready to come into the pose, I like to stack blocks up sometimes and use them underneath either my arms, sometimes even my head, right? But if you need to keep your back long, you know, getting out of your hands, this is a way you can do it. You can stack your blocks up and be able to release with that long back, and you still might be able to let your head hang. So just enjoy full, deep, even breath. See if you can count when you inhale. Doesn't matter whether you reach, 4, 5, 6, 7, however deep your breath is. See if you can reach that same count though when you breathe out. Or even a little bit longer. So if you can extend your exhales out longer than your inhales, let yourself focus on those breaths. Rise up from here. You know that if you need to bring your feet closer together before you think about coming up, go right ahead and do that, right? So that when you come up, and if you're dizzy too, be mindful. If you need to hold on to something, do walk around a little bit, move through your feet. And we're going to leave our mats where they are, but we are going to walk to a wall just to put our fingertips on a wall. Or if you want to use your chair, you can stay on your mat and use your chair. That's up to you. If you feel more stability with a wall by your hand, just find a little empty wall and put your left hand. Let's all put our left hand on the wall or your chair. And then bring your right foot up like you're stepping up a step. Flex through that right foot. Now you're on one leg, obviously. This is a hard balance. If you feel like you want to reach and hold your right knee with your right hand or behind your right thigh, you can come to the outside of your leg and kind of hold the back of your thigh. The knee is forward, and you can imagine balancing if you want to stretch your left arm up overhead. If you don't want to balance, don't do it. Keep your hand on the wall. And now put the hand back if you're using the wall and open the knee over to the right a little bit. Now, not so much that your hips move. Your hips are still square. And if you want, you can try to balance a little bit there. You can let yourself release your left arm up overhead or not. You can hold on to the wall for dear life. Don't worry about it. One more breath. And then bring the knee back forward. And now bring the foot down. And then bend your right knee. Let the foot come behind you for a quad stretch. You don't have to reach back and get your foot to get a stretch in your quad. So if you want to, you can. You can reach back and hold your ankle or the top of your foot. You can press the foot into your hand a little bit if you've got it. And then if you want to come a little forward with your chest and back a little bit with your knee, you can do that if that feels okay. You can do that without holding your foot as well. You can balance if you choose to. That's totally up to you. Holding the foot or not, balancing with the hand on the wall or not. And then come on back up and turn to face the wall. Step back into like a down dog at the wall. In other words, you're coming into lengthening through your spine, and you're trying to be about 90 degrees at your hips. Your torso is pretty parallel to the floor. Hug your elbows towards each other. Just reach back through your tailbone and your sitting bones. Enjoy that stretch. Good. Nice. And then walk on back towards the wall so we can turn around to put our right hand on the wall. And again, as you stand on your right foot, your left foot comes up like you're stepping up a step. So the foot's forward and the knee is up, and you can decide you can not hold the leg at all, or you can hold the knee, or you can hold behind your thigh. But again, if you want to think about balancing, you can always bring that right arm up, and maybe you can let go of the wall for a second. Maybe not. This is a really hard balance. And then open the knee to the left a little bit. So again, it's not far. You don't want your hips to turn. You want the hips to stay square. Good. You can hold on to the wall or not here again. You can think about balancing for a second. And then bring the knee back forward again. And bring the foot down and put the left foot behind you so you come into that quad stretch part. So again, you can stay right here with the knee bent. You can ease a little bit forward with your chest, back a little with your knee. You can reach for the foot if you want to. Totally up to you. Good, one more breath. And then let yourself come down. Turn again to where you can put your hands on the wall and let yourself, and this is the one I was talking about you could do on your kitchen counter at home. This is a wonderful down dog. You could put your hands on the counter at home and kind of press down, hug your elbows in, and reach back and lengthen through your spine. It's a great pose. I mean, to do several times a day, it's a flattening of your back, obviously. It should feel really good. You can bend your knees if you need to. Nice. Good. And then just let yourself walk on back towards the wall. And we do have room. Turn on around with your back to the wall. And let your feet come maybe 12 or so inches away from the wall. It's not exact, right? It can be more or less. And then bend your knees just a little bit, right? So your feet are hip distance apart and parallel. And then from there, start to think about your hips coming forward, but your back of your head is still in the wall, right? So you're not looking up, you're still parallel with your chin. And now if you can straighten your legs out, this is a back bend. If your arms can kind of hang, then if your shoulders are away from the wall, it's a little more intense. If you feel like it's too intense, then get closer to the wall and do it. Or you can step your feet farther from the wall, start with that bend, and send your hips forward when you straighten out your legs. And then there you have a little more, but you have to feel this length right here in the front of your hips and your belly engaging. Good. So one more breath here. And then shift back again with your hips to the wall. Bend your knees, walk your feet out. See if you can come forward and put your hands above your knees. So you're with a long back. Your back is really lengthened. If you want to go lower, feel free to put your elbows above your knees. If that feels like more of a relief, go for it. If it feels worse, don't do it. And let yourself enjoy coming into that nice long spine here. We're going to add a little twist. So let your left arm come to kind of drape over towards your right knee and bring your right hand to your right hip. Some of you might even want to put the right hand up on the wall, right fingertips up on the wall. You're looking to your right too, but you want to keep your left sitting bone in the wall. And then come back into center, and we're going to take a breath at center before we do the other side. And then as you're lengthened out, you bring your right arm across, kind of drape it across the outside of your knee. You can put your left hand on your hip, press your right sit bone into the wall. If you want to reach back towards the wall with your left hand, you can. Totally optional. Good. And then come on back into center again. And you can stay resting, elbows above the knees. Some of you might want to fold all the way over your legs. If that feels like the biggest relief ever, do it. If you're, you know how your back feels. So only go to where you can. Your hips are back in the wall. It's a different kind of a forward bend. To me, it feels just awesome, but you have to really pay attention to your back. One more breath. Oh, and then we're going to bend our knees, bring our hands to our thighs, and come all the way on back up. Walk your feet on back. Good. And we're going to come back to our mats. We're going to lie down on our bellies on the floor. So you might want to kind of move your chair to the side if it's in your way. You can put it up if you want. Yeah, whatever feels good. Let's come on down. And let yourself just lie with your forehead on your hands so that you can let yourself release here into your back. And then once you kind of get situated, bend your knees and let your feet come on up and circle your feet around. And move them however you need to. You can do windshield wiper blades. You can let the legs go side to side. You can let yourself do a little foot dance back there. I actually like to separate my feet and then cross my ankles and go back and forth where I switch which one's, on top for that crossing. That really releases my hips, but, that's not for everybody. It's not for everybody's knees either. And then come on back down with your legs nice and long. And we're going to come onto our forearms and come on into a little Sphinx pose. You can stay lower with your elbows down more towards your waist and come up a little bit here like this. Or you can come to elbows below your shoulders so that you're up a little bit higher. But remember, the belly's gently engaged. You don't want to feel discomfort in your back. And for a second, just bring your gaze there between your hands. Let it feel good. Just opening the front of the body here. And then bring your hands together. Clasp them, send your pinky finger out, bend your knees, lift up into a half forearm plank. And imagine you're trying to pull your body towards the front of your mat, which really draws you even more onto that flesh above your knees, and you can feel your belly engaging really deeply. Enjoy that for one more breath here. And there's your belly and your back and your your belly, your back, and low back and hips. Great core pose. Come down. See if you can stay on your right forearm and roll to your side to bring your knees up towards you, right? So if this bothers you in any way, don't do it. If you can make a loose fist with your right hand and send it towards that left front corner of your mat, there's a little bit of an angle there in your arm. And you may want to stay right here, pushing gently down into your forearm there. It's a side plank. It's a variation of a side plank. It might be enough, right? It's even more if you stretch your top arm up overhead. So if you want to come a little more into a side plank, and you're working on your shoulders and your strength there into the shoulders, you can, and then come down. And we are going to go to the other side. So let yourself just roll through the belly and come onto your left forearm there. Let your elbow be under your shoulder. Bring your knees forward there. And that loose fist with your left hand comes a little bit towards the corner of your mat. And then again, you might just stay right there, just gently pressing down. Don't force anything, especially if you have shoulder issues. Just do what you can. And again, if you like, you can stretch that top leg long. Maybe that would feel good to you as you gently press into your forearm. And if not, don't do it. Come back to bent knees, or if you want to stretch the bottom leg out and put that top foot on the floor, you can decide if you want to press into the foot and lift your hips up and stretch up with that top arm. And don't do it if it doesn't feel good. Don't force anything into your shoulders. And then we're going to release and bring your knees on back in a little bit here. And then we're going to come back to our bellies again. And what you do, go ahead and lie with your forehead again on your hands and bend your knees and let your feet move around. Do a little foot dance back there, whatever you want to do. And then we're going to release the legs back long. And now see if you can stretch your arms up towards the corners of your mat into a wide V here. And just release. Breathe into your low back. And now, when you inhale, see if you can let just your head come a little off the floor. And then see if you can add your hands and arms up a little tiny bit. And that's kind of a lot, isn't it? And then release back down. And now keep your upper body down and try to lift your legs up a little bit. Your feet and your legs are going to lift up. And then let them come on back down. And now, let's inhale everything we can up into the air. And it doesn't have to be high. You know, your nose might barely be off the floor. This is the hardest locust pose there is, actually. And strengthens the back, but if it feels like too much, come down and rest. And we're all going to make our way down. And we're going to shift back towards pose with child from here. So how deeply you go back with your knees bent and your hips towards your heels is up to you. You might want to stay forward a little bit onto your forearms so your knees aren't deeply bent, but you can still release your hips like this and your back, your low back too. You can shift all the way back towards letting your hips come towards your heels if you're comfortable to do that. And how far apart your knees are in your child's pose is totally up to you. Let it be comfortable for you. And breathe into your low back. Let yourself accept those breaths. Full deep breaths in and out. Really almost imagine you're breathing into your pelvis if you can. That's a bit different feeling. Good. One more breath. And now letting your hands come by your knees. We're going to come up and around to sitting. So how do you do that? How do you make your way on around? Totally up to you. Grab a blanket if you need. We're going to stretch our legs out in front of us first. Move through our feet a little bit for a second and our ankles and do little wiper blades. You can do little leg bounces too if it feels good. And then if you know sitting up like this is really hard, grab yourself help, right? Sitting up on that blanket or even rolling a blanket up or putting blocks under your knees like this so that when you sit, if you're short and if your hamstrings are tight and your low back is tight, this will help you to be able to sit up easier. And it'll also help you to come forward a little bit easier. So if bending your knees helps you to think of coming forward from your low back into a classic seated forward bend, then do that. Being up on a blanket as well. So think of coming forward from your low back, and then once you get to where you're comfortable, if you want to let your head hang do, if you want to hold your legs anywhere or your toes, or if you'd rather rest your hands beside your legs, just enjoy easy, nice, full breaths. And then we're going to slowly make our way up and let your left foot come a little more to the midline of your body and bring your right foot across to the outside of your left leg. It can be low or it can be higher. But see if you can use your hands here on your right leg to let yourself sit up as tall as you can. So inhale into that length of your spine. And then as you exhale, your left hand can hold your right knee as you bring your right hand behind you, coming into twist. So take your time. You can wrap your arm around your leg if you want to. Let yourself lengthen up through the crown of your head and feel your sitting bones in the ground. Good. One more breath here. And now, as you exhale, come back through center. We're going to keep on going into the other direction. So whichever direction you went, now you're going the other way. And let yourself lengthen up through the top of your head. Feel almost like you're lifting your pelvic floor up a little bit as you feel your sit bones down, right? So one more inhale. And on your exhale, let yourself come on back around. We are going to switch legs. So just bring yourself to that other leg, whatever height you want to be with the foot to the outside of the leg. And again, use your hands to help you, because if you almost pull yourself up, right, you can find more space in your own spine. Take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, as your right hand comes to that left knee, bring your left hand behind you. Come on around into that twist. And you can, if you want, bring the arm to the outside of the leg, or you can keep holding with your hand. That's totally up to you. Let yourself just enjoy finding that base of support and then feeling that twist in the middle of the back. So one more inhale. And on the exhale, we'll come on back around through so we can go all the way into the other direction. So again, just enjoy feeling that twist in the middle of your back. Good. One more breath. And then use your belly to bring you back into center. Stretch your legs on out there for a second. Let them come a little bit wider and circle through your feet a little bit. Your ankles get moved. And then just a little wide angle. Don't make it really wide. Just have your feet be at least, this far apart so that when you come forward from your low back, it feels pretty good. You can feel your inner thighs, but it feels like almost like a release, right? It's not, instead of causing discomfort anywhere. So let it feel good. You can reach your hands to your legs or your toes. Just feel that length of the low back as you come forward a little bit. Good. And then we're going to rise on back up and bring our legs on together. We're going to come down onto our backs on the floor, but have a block handy before you go down, okay? And then come on down. Bring your knees on in to your chest. If you can let your knees go side to side, whether you hold them or not, that's up to you. Let it feel great. Let your hips release, your low back. If you'd rather circle the knees, by all means do. So find the release that feels best for you, right? Just to, almost like you're massaging your own hips and low back here. Good. And then bring your feet onto the floor and let yourself take hold of a block. And if you know you really don't like supported bridge, don't do this. If it's too high to get up on the lowest height of your block, you can always try a blanket underneath you. Or you can play doing these things without being up too. So if you're able to be on the block, do. Make sure you're not hanging off it. Don't put it on your back where your hips are sinking down towards the ground. Instead, you're right on that flat part of your sacrum, at the base of your spine there. Feel it supported, because we're going to play a little bit with bringing our right foot up, knee in towards our chest a little, and we're going to stretch that leg up in the air. And then we're going to do the same thing with the left knee and foot up, and see if we can stretch both legs up in the air. Now, if you need to, you can roll your shoulders under you a little bit more if you feel more supported that way. And now see if on your exhale, if you can lower your right leg down without changing the angle of your pelvis. And it doesn't have to go far. It might go 12 inches, or it might go almost all the way down to the floor. But you find the lower you go, the more you have to engage your belly. You're using your back too. And then you can rise it back up when you're ready. And you're going to do the other leg. And let yourself try to do this a few times on each side, right? And that doesn't mean you need to go fast. It means you really want to focus on using that control, not letting there be any shift in your pelvis. And I'm serious, you may just want to go a foot. You don't have to lower the leg low at all. So if you can do one more on each leg, do. If you're like, yeah, no, I'm so done. Let's be done. And then when you're ready, let yourself release the feet onto the floor. And here you are in supported bridge. If you want a little more, bend your elbows, do your robot arms, press into the backs of your arms. Maybe you want to lift off the block. And maybe you're like, I don't even want the block anymore. So if you want to get rid of the block, you can. If you want to switch the block to a higher height and come back down, support it higher, that can be kind of fun to play with. Or you can move the block, you can come down anytime you want, and you all know that. So if you've had it with bridge pose, let yourself release down if you need to, all the way to the floor. And always when you do come down, make sure you bring yourself into releasing your back by letting your knees come in towards you. So take your time. Nice. And if you're not already down, start to think about coming on down. And again, releasing to bring your knees into your chest. Some of you might even want to do a little happy baby pose. If you feel like you want to send your feet up and let the knees slide towards the outside of the ribs, feel free to come into whatever's going to help you release. And if you need another twist here on your back, It can be as simple as letting your knees come from one side to the other. It can be feet coming to the floor and then knees coming from one side to the other. Or you may decide that you need something else entirely, if you need another kind of a twist, by all means. Or any other pose or movement before Shavasana. So take your time, I'm walking around to get the lights. And then I'll start to bring stuff. So that if you feel at all uncomfortable, so when you lie for traditional Shavasana on your back, with your arms down alongside you, your legs long, if your back is telling you something, listen to it. So a bolster underneath your knees can really help to kind of let your pelvis come into a different angle, which might release your back. It doesn't always work, but it can. I'm going to walk around and I will see if I can bring people. I'm sure you're comfortable enough with it so you can move it around. And if it doesn't work, just take it out. So if it doesn't feel good, if I do bring you one and you're like, oh, that doesn't help, you don't want to use it, don't. I have a feeling. I'll get you two, Jenny. I got you guys. You're fine. I won't step on you, I promise. Thank you. You're welcome. So let me know. I'm making sure I got everybody here that wants some support. If you need a blanket or not comfortable, let me know. I can bring you what you might need. Just allow yourself to release now, feeling that support of the ground, that firmness of the floor really does allow you to relax a little more deeply. You can feel the contrast between the firmness of the ground and then when you start to soften down and watch your breath. You'll find those little quiet places. When your mind wanders and starts thinking again, which it always does, just see if you can bring your awareness back to your breath. If it helps you to count your breaths, you can count. Or you can think a word or a mantra when you inhale and exhale that brings your focus back. But just give yourself the gift of a few minutes here to allow your body and your brain to benefit from all you just did. And just let yourself completely and fully relax. breath come in and go out more fully, just gradually starting to feel the physical movement again as you breathe in and out. And let those deeper breaths gradually bring you back into wanting to move physically again, so that your fingers and your toes start to wiggle and move, maybe your hands, your feet. You can circle your hands and feet around and just let your arms and legs, when you're ready, move the way you need. You can stretch, you can bend. Take your time to let yourself come back into moving what feels natural, the way that feels natural for you. And you know you're welcome to roll to either your right or your left side if that is comfortable for you to do. You can bend your knees. You can come to one side using your arm as a pillow if you don't have a blanket there, maybe, to be able to rest more comfortably. Just give yourself the time you need, so that when you do feel like rising to come to sitting, it feels fine to feel your head up there again, up above your heart. And if you need to adjust how you're sitting, by all means do. If grabbing a blanket or sitting up on your bolster or your blanket feels better, do. And just let your eyes close if they opened on the way up, so that you can be with your breath again. You can just accept your breaths, watching them coming in and going out. And on your next exhale, let your hands come gently to meet there in front of your heart. And wishing each one of you a very joyful day. Namaste. Namaste. Happy Wednesday, middle of the week. One more Wednesday in June.